describing where we're headed as a church. It's our way of looking at what the steps are.
Unbeatable Leadership with Jeff Struecker.
I put a post online just the other day about the impeachment of the Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. And I made a whole bunch of people mad because I just simply made some statements about why I think this was sheer cowardice. I also think it was a radical abuse of the Constitution, literally misuse the Constitution and undermine the Constitution to do what the Constitution was never intended to do. I'm not going to go over that whole argument all over again. You can check that video out if you want. But I do want to talk about leadership for just a second. You see that last video on current events, what just happened in the United States with the Secretary of Homeland Security. I really want to challenge the whole notion behind this decision. You see, one of the tenets of leadership is when you're in charge, take charge. Or actually, the way that it's been tossed around in a shortened version is when in charge, take charge. And if you take charge, that also means you take responsibilities. I believe that a leader has no right to be given responsibilities. There's absolutely no excuse for giving a leader responsibilities if that leader does not have the authority to carry out those responsibilities. Meaning, a leader must always handle the responsibilities that go along with the authority of the office. And for a few people that might be watching who are leaders of other leaders, if you have people that you lead who are leading others, don't give them responsibility unless you have already given them all the authority that they need to carry out that responsibility. That's a whole nother discussion for another day. In fact, I'll come back to this conversation in the future if it'd be helpful. What I want to talk about for just a second is with authority comes responsibility, and with that responsibility comes blame. Comes the credit for the success. And I really believe that leaders should do everything in their power to recognize all of the people that contributed to an organization or a team's success. Meaning, if you're the leader of a very successful team, I don't know, let's say that you're the head coach of a Super Bowl winning football team, you should do everything in your power to give away all of the credit for that win to the other people on the team. People already recognize that you're a leader. They're already going to recognize your role in the organization, but they may not recognize the other coaches, the equipment people, the staff, the front office people. They certainly may not recognize those other players on the field that didn't get all of the limelight. I think one of the jobs of a leader is to point that spotlight on some of those people that don't necessarily always get it, but they were involved in the success of an organization. So as a leader, give away all of the credit for what goes right in your organization. But as a leader, you also take all of the responsibility personally for what goes wrong in your organization. And right now, there's lots of people who are thinking, that doesn't seem fair. I don't get any of the credit for my hard work. But when our whole team does something wrong, when there are other people in my team that did something wrong, I'm supposed to take all of the fault, all of the responsibility. Notice I said take all of the responsibility, not all of the blame. I don't think that a whole lot of good comes out of pointing the finger at what somebody else did wrong. Because when in charge, take charge. And if you're in charge, take responsibility for what went wrong. Meaning maybe somebody below me didn't do their job. Maybe somebody below me made some simple mistakes. Maybe somebody below me broke some rules to make those mistakes, but I'm still the leader, and one of my responsibilities as a leader is to supervise. And if those mistakes and failures didn't get corrected before the things went wrong, before the organization made some mistakes, before the failure, well, that lack of supervision is my fault. I'm not at fault for the simple mistakes that somebody made. I'm not at fault for breaking the rules that another person made, but I am at fault for not supervising. I am at fault for setting the kind of conditions for a culture where those things can happen. I am at fault for not allowing enough time or not having the systems in place to catch those mistakes. So here's the classic challenge of leadership. When in charge, take charge. And when things go right, give away as much of the credit for what went right as you can. But when things go wrong, take responsibility, because maybe you didn't make the catastrophic mistake, but I guarantee you, if you are the leader, you failed to supervise, you didn't create the conditions, you didn't have the systems in place where that kind of stuff got fixed before it ever went off, the train went off the rails. So here's my challenge for all those people who say, I would love to be the big boss one day. I'd like to have all of that money, all of that authority, all of that power. Really? Because with it comes a lot of responsibility, and responsibility is one thing a leader can never, ever delegate. You can delegate some of your control, you can delegate some of your authority, you can delegate a lot of your power, but you cannot delegate your responsibility. When in charge, take charge. And when things go right, give the credit for everybody else that was doing hard work. When things go wrong, be the leader who says, I created some conditions, I didn't supervise, I am the one who set the culture where this thing happened, and we're going to fix it so that it doesn't happen again. Just a couple of thoughts about all of the criticism about the Secretary of Homeland Security. When if you ask the real question, does the Secretary of Homeland Security have the authority to make immigration policies, or is Mayorkas' job just simply to execute the policies that his boss has been given? I'll let you think about how those things work together. See you around.